a Tupac chain on his Instagram, and you guys know he's a fan.
The two. And since then, things have only gotten worse. We've got all the details here. Let's break it down. The purchase that sparked controversy. Yo, the hip-hop. Streets just caught the wildest body this week, and it all jumped off with one Instagram post that had everybody in their feelings. What looked like just another rich rapper stunting with his latest piece turned into the most explosive beef of 2025. Involving Death Row Records, Tupac's legacy, and a prison phone call that's got the whole culture shook. On August 24, 2025, Drake sliding his IG stories, flossing a diamond-flooded Death Row Records pendant that had the culture doing double takes. But this wasn't just any regular Ice homie posted it right next to the legendary All Eyes on Me album. Cover where Pac is rocking what looks like the same exact chain. The streets immediately started buzzing with cats assuming Drake just coped Tupac's actual chain for some crazy bread. We talking estimates from a few hundred bands to over 1 million. This move was straight from Drake's playbook when it comes to collecting Pac memorabilia. Back in July 2023, my mans made headlines when he dropped over $1 million on Tupac's self-designed crown ring at a Sabby's auction. That ring was the real deal. Came with all the paperwork, Providence letters, the whole nine. It was authenticated down to the serial numbers and traced back to Yasmin Fula, Pac's godmother. Nobody could question that purchase because the documentation was airtight. Drake bought Tupac's crown ring for over $1 million at a New York City auction. But what you might not know is that this was actually Tupac's ring that he was wearing at his last public appearance. But there's actually a cooler backstory to all of this. So Tupac was actually engaged in 1996 to Kadada Jones, the daughter of Quincy Jones. And if you pay attention to the bottom of the ring where the bandies, it reads out Pac and 1996. But this death road chain situation was hitting different, unlike that crown ring purchase that came with all their seats. Drake didn't drop one piece of documentation about where he CPP'd this chain from. No auction house name, no Ziller info, no authentication. Papers, nothing. Just post it up with the chain and let the streets fill in the blanks. That should have been the first red flag that some foul play was about to unfold. The timing had everybody side-eyeing the move, too. We talk in August 2025, more than a year after. Drake caught that serious fade from Kendrick and what might be the most vicious rap beef we've seen in decades. Some folks in the hood started wondering if this was genuine love for Pac or if Drake was on some petty payback-type timing. The beef with Cott had already dragged Tupac into Themis when Drake used AI to mimic PA's voice on tailor-made freestyle, a move that had the whole West Coast ready to slide on him and eventually forced him to pull the track. This still feels like the shade of Not Like Us, Kendrick Lamar battle, so I'm gonna buy the chain anyway. I know the West Coast doesn't like me, and Tupac's your savior. Guess what? Death row around my neck. You know what I mean? What y'all gonna do? Real recognize real, though, that death row chain ain't just some jewelry piece. That's a certified piece of hip-hop history that carries more weight in the culture than most cats understand. Suge Knight designed that chain concept to be like the ultimate gang flag for death row, creating a symbol that represented loyalty, hierarchy, and that dangerous energy that made death row the most feared label in the game during the 90s. That electric chair pendant wasn't just for show. It embodied that reckless, rebellious spirit that had West Coast gangster rap running the whole industry. Only the realest ethereal ever got their hands on authentic death row chains. Suge kept that distribution on lock with estimates saying only 5-10 authentic pieces were ever made. We talking about Snoop getting one early on before he switched to that dog paw design when the heat got too heavy, and maybe a handful of other death row family members. These weren't commercial pieces you could buy at the jewelry store. These were sacred symbols of who was really down with the row. The cultural impact of these chains was crazy deep. They became the first piece of jewelry in rap history that basically became gang insignia, so powerful that schools across the West Coast had to ban them because they were sparking too much drama. Wearing that death row pendant wasn't just about showing your success. It was announcing your allegiance to a whole lifestyle and mindset that death row represented during their reign of terror. To understand why this chain carries so much weight, you got to know death row's come-up story. Founded in 1991 by Suge Knight, Dr. Dre, Dick Griffey, and the Docky, Death Row Records became the definition of West Coast gangster rap, pushing out game-changing albums like Dre's The Chronic and Snoop's Doggy Style. The label's aggressive business moves and street credibility made them untouchable in the music industry. Everybody feared and respected the row. The chain's design was straight fire, too, crafted with serious attention to detail, Authentic chains featured 14 KT yellow gold with about 3 carat of diamonds, hands set to get that fully iced out look that had the whole industry jealous. That electric chair motif was rendered with intricate gold work, creating a piece that was both beautiful and menacing at the same time. The pendant was roughly 2'3" in across, so when you wore it, everybody knew what time it was. The relationship between Tupac and that Death Row chain is where this whole story gets deep. When Tupac joined Death Row in October 1995, after Suge bailed him out for $1.4 million, he gained access to Suge's personal chain, the original fully diamond-encrusted piece, that would become legendary on the All Eyes on Me album cover. Drake's history with Tupac memorabilia had always been controversial in certain circles of the culture. His 2023 crown ring purchase got mostly love because it came through legitimate channels with all the proper documentation. But his habit of using Pac's likeness and legacy in his beefs had cats from the West Coast questioning his motives, especially dudes who see themselves as the real guardians of Tupac's memory. Soon as Drake posted that chain, the streets erupted. Hip-hop heads, collectors, and industry insiders started breaking down every detail in the photo, comparing it to old flicks of Pac wearing the original chain. Some folks were praising Drake for preserving hip-hop history, while others were questioning whether he was really showing love or just trying to buy his way into West Coast credibility, and people are just like, why? Why? This belongs in a museum, or this belongs with Pac's family? This doesn't feel right. So there was a lot of conversation about that. The situation got even more heated because of Drake's recent history with West Coast hip-hop culture. After catching that beating from Kendrick Lamar, who's basically the current king of West Coast rap excellence, every move Drake made related to that region was under a microscope. A lot of cats saw his Tupac memorabilia collecting ace opportunistic, especially with the timing coming after his L in the Kendrick beef. The backlash wasn't just social media chatter either. Real OGs from the West Coast scene started voicing their opinions about Drake's purchase. Cats like Rap and Fort, who already had beef with Drake over some interpolated lyrics, went off about the acquisition, saying Drake didn't deserve to own such an important piece of West Coast hip-hop history. And it's funny because one of the people that was had a tweet criticizing it was Rap. I know y'all remember Rap Hot from the song Players Club, you feel me? Among many other hits from the Bay Area. He's from Fries. Also, a lot of that song Players Club was interpolated by Drake on that song. That whole verse, you feel me? Yeah, was flipped. I mean, look, he's got the options. I don't feel like he's let the battle go. So I'm suspect. Oh, no, let me clear that up for you, Shini. Yeah, he has to let the battle go. Let me clean that. Let me fix that up for you. It's not over. I'm like, is this Death Row purchase genuine, or is it? I mean, I guess it would be hard to tell. The drama reached its peak when questions about the chain's authenticity started, surfacing from the real hip-hop heads who know what to look for. Unlike Drake's previous Tupac ring purchase that came with bulletproof documentation, this Death Row chain seemed to be missing that same level of providence. Experts in the memorabilia game started pointing out discrepancies between Drake's chain and historical photos of the original pieces, especially when it came to diamond quality, setting work, and overall craftsmanship. Initial analysis from the culture's authentication experts suggested that the chain Drake CPP'd might be a reproduction instead of an authentic 90s Death Row piece. Cats wholly know their hip-hop memorabilia started breaking down specific details that seemed off compared to known authentic pieces, including diamond count, setting quality, and construction methods. But nobody was ready for what was about to happen next. Suge Knight, locked up on a 28-year bid for voluntary manslaughter, was preparing to drop some knowledge that would send shockwaves through the culture and generate millions of views across all platforms. The prison phone call that changed everything. 2 days after Drake's Instagram post had the whole hip-hop world in their feelings, the most unexpected voice decided to hop in the mix. From deep inside R.J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego, California, Marion Suge Knight, the original Death Row Dawn, and the same cat who was riding shotgun when Pac took his final ride was about to drop some bombs that would have social media going absolutely crazy. On August 26, 2025, Suge called into The Art of Dialogue, a podcast that's